Somebody once told me that watching birds made them want to go on a journey. I watched endlessly through hazy evenings, counting flocks of birds that I didn't know the name of, trying to see what they meant, wondering where they always went. Those birds would be replaced by stars, and those stars, the sun, and then the birds again. Out of whim, I decided to follow them, annoyed that someone's loose words would goad me, and at least a bit curious about the appeal. Besides, I thought there wouldn't be any harm in trying a journey. One of those countries I visited was strange, to say the least. Upon entering, I was greeted by automation, which continued throughout my stay. Tiny machines rolled along floors with silver arms extending from their bodies to fetch empty dishes and guide me to rooms. For a moment, it seemed as if this was a country of machines, but I quickly learned that this was just like any other case. My travels always seemed to have this flow, finding surfaces, finding scruple, and finding sacrosanct functions of society far beyond my understanding. And then, after all of that, seeing what these places really are. When looking atop a city wall, I saw enclaves of people living in their homes, their boundaries lush green and wide as the sky. I didn't see the birds I was chasing here, so I was already planning to leave, but there would be no journey gained if I left without having learned anything. So, on another whim, I went and talked to a countryman, learning of their origins. He, in his somber words, focused in his eyes, searching through his windows, short breaths, told me of how his people came to be separated. They wanted to be closer through scientific means, but ultimately, no one could stand the thought of being so close. What brought them together brought them apart. Now they live peacefully, apart, minding their own ways, solemn and quiet. It's rather beautiful in its own way. I wasn't quite sure what to think of the irony, but I bid him farewell and went to where the birds flew next. Somehow, the birds led me to a place of sand. It bloomed over the air and atmosphere, but eventually I found the country's walls, burning in full shine. The sun followed every stone tile, as if watching every person who walked by these streets. The library was where I was headed, having heard rumors that this country collected books from all over the world. A nice gesture of archival importance, I thought, and besides, a little reading on my journey wouldn't hurt. But every country, every world I seemingly enter always has another edge. I seem to attract far too much irony, or I guess that's just how the world is. Interminable ironic fallacies. It's not flattering at all, but many stories I have are going to be filled with these oftentimes depressing perspectives, which may seem heavy, but I promise it's not all that bad. But anyways, the library was impressive. It had books. That's as great as it gets. Or at least to the Department of Reading and Welfare, everything is great. These people are a collective of critics that decide whether a book is harmful or not, with every book screened by them before being allowed publication or put in the libraries. Social tolerance levels are used as criteria, and as I scoured the shelves, it was evident what they meant by that. It was all tame drivel that even children would find mundane. No matter how many books they collected, they would all be vetted, stored in that dome-shaped castle, watching over the country, as if judging every person who walked by these streets. I didn't bother with a book. Certainly not from a place like that. Knowledge from people who control knowledge? I'd rather not. Like I said before, not every country I visit has some kind of egregious irony. Actually, this particular country was rather welcoming, if anything. Its clear skies and distant mountains made for nice breathing air, which, for my travels, is quite a compliment. Everything seemed relatively fine, almost too peaceful for my travels, but I soon learned of the country's customs, valuing only economic growth through agriculture. Agrarian societies are fine, they definitely have a charm to them. But when someone is born that goes against that grain, well, there comes that irony. She came rushing in, like a lion in March, and listening to her tale of wanting to fly, I became invested. Through sheer happenstance, we managed to brainstorm ideas for the flying machine she was building. Of course, she received no support from the town, and they even asked to tear apart her dreams. But during my stay, I witnessed a dream take flight. Once everyone saw her flying machine come to fruition, they had no choice but to applaud her cunning. Being impressed was an understatement. But what I focused on instead was those words I heard so long ago. At the end of the day, this journey, these stories, can be quite heartwarming. Seeing her fly in the sky against all odds, it was beautiful. Looking at how often these stories lead to strange endings, it's also amazingly human. I've probably went far too long about all of the places I've been to now. Even remembering all of those countries, it's tiring. There's just so much out there and so many things to learn. To get some time to write it down like this, it's a blessing, really. If I were to still say that the point of my journey was to chase those birds, I would be lying. I knew from the start I would never find them, that they would fly wherever they wanted, and maybe I was jealous of that. But now, I find my own flight in exploring the world in the ways that I can. From seeing loneliness blossom from excess comfort, from seeing information controlled under the guise of protection, from seeing a lack of appreciation for arts and science leading to repression, and many other themes from many other worlds, I learned that I'm just me. As if a bird of my own, I drift watching these countries, not too involved, but not wholly detached either. I'm not there to play God, after all, just to learn, to live. Really, I find that the greatest part of my journey. Learning so many things, engaging in so much conversation, and making me consider every aspect of my own world. The reason I'm writing in the first place is to see if I can decipher and distill these travels. My world has always been singular. Experiences come and go, but I've stayed in my own bubble. That's just how it's been. Exploring different worlds, being able to go there in safety as an observer and learn ideologies, cultures, and perspectives is perhaps the best way to expand my world. Besides, there's no harm in indulging and thinking about these mindsets and considering their merits and demerits. It makes my own world that much richer. Thinking of it now, so many of those ideals through far-off worlds still apply to my own. Funny as that is, fiction and art, they say. I guess it's awfully dangerous and even horrific in that sense. As much intrigue and fascination, there's an equal amount of melancholy and depravity, or at least to me. To them, living in their worlds, that's just how they are. That's their home. their way, indoctrinated by birth through customs beyond an outsider's paradigm. But hey, even if the world could be so utterly incomplete, so destructive and disagreeable, well, that's exactly why the world is beautiful. We all live together in our own ways, with our own ideas, and we try our best to understand one another. This journey is just a peaceful rendition of that understanding, and it's one I would recommend everyone to try, to just get a little taste of the many worlds out there, even if there are disagreeable philosophies. Hey, that has a good ring to it. The world is not beautiful, therefore it is. Well, I'm not one to sit here waxing philosophical. All I can really say is that it doesn't hurt to try a journey to find a beautiful world.